Call to order, Borough of Crafton, discussion and agenda meeting dated June 8th, 2015. Flag salute by Mr. Crown. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amendola.
Here.
Ms. Amendola.
Here.
Mr. Crum.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Ms. Whitehall.
Here.
Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mayor Bloom.
Here.
Engineer Instrument.
Here.
Manager Scott.
Here. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the bill list dated June 8th, 2015.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill list? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes dated May 18th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'll inform the public that we had an executive session before this meeting to discuss personnel and contract matters. No vote was taken, nothing was decided. We have 3 folks signed up to speak at citizen comments. One of them is, actually 2 of them, one is on the agenda and the other 2 are not on the agenda. I'll ask the 2 folks that want to discuss things not on the agenda to wait till their citizens' comments at the end of the meeting. And the park and pool, which is Mary Luxbacher, please come up, state your name, address, and try to keep your comments at 3 minutes, Mary.
No problem. Mary Luxbacher, 71 Dinsmore Avenue in Crafton. I'm not going to steal Mr. Wade's thunder at all, but I did want to say that the Pull Together Committee and the Rec Committee did review and actually had a lot of input into this new splash pad, spray pad type of thing. And we really think it's going, and we've had it down the pole and people have been looking at it and really like it. Everyone seems very excited about it. So we just appreciate that we were given the opportunity to actually have some input. And it is a very doable project and, you know, we're very excited about it. And the pool is open on school days from 4 to 8 and on the weekends 12 to 8 on Saturday and 1 to 8 on Sunday. And if the weather would just cooperate, it really is, it was really crowded yesterday. I think people are dying to get down there. I also wanted to make comment about the parks. The benches have gone in. They look great. They're up by the playscape. Your crew is very talented. They're working away down there and they do a wonderful job. The water fountain was going in today. I think all the grills are going in. So people need to get down there and really utilize that park. And the more I'm down there, people really do. I mean, it's amazing. Even the ball fields are used a lot down there. I didn't realize they were. And you'll see young families down there, but you also see teenagers and actually 20-somethings down there playing ball. So it's really kind of nice to see. The garden looks great, and I want to thank all the people who contributed their time, and it's very fact-breaking work down there, but you can see that things are growing, and it's really taking off at this point. With this rain, it's really going to do well. So just thank you, and please, everyone, get down there and use your parks and pool. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, we'll cover the other 2 citizens' comments, as I said, at the end of the meeting. I just want to acknowledge we received the following written reports for April 2015. The Treasurer's Report, Financial Report, Act 511, Report the Trash Collection, Property Tax Report, Police Report, Building Inspection, and the Engineer's Report. Are there any questions for any of those reports?
There's an EMS report in there somewhere. I read it, but it's not included in that list that you mentioned.
Okay, let's make sure we have that report. All right, thanks, Fred. Okay, let's move on into the presentation. for the splash pad that Mary alluded to by the borough engineer.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we have a plan view and a rendering of the splash pool and its features. Nothing's in stone feature-wise, but the pool itself, the dimensions, the location, the amenities to the pool, outside of the pool, support structures, those are items that probably are not able to easily be changed. But as Mary mentioned, we met with the rec committee and got this to as many folks as possible to have input. We think we have a great plan. What we do need tonight, as far as the schedule is concerned, because it is tight, if we can get approval tonight from council on the concept design, then we will start tomorrow on the actual design development of the project so that it can be completed and advertised, bid, open bids and award a contract as soon as possible so that we can try to squeeze, and it seems a long way away before the pool gets closed this year, but we're up against time in order to try to get some construction started this fall. If we wait and we miss that and winter comes in, we're starting construction in spring, and that's risky because there's a chance it wouldn't be done when the pool opens on the holiday. So we want to make sure that that we minimize that potential of not being open. So if tonight we get that approval, then that's going to give us our best opportunity to meet the opening of the pool next year with the project completed. So with that, Wayne is going to come up and walk through the layout and also some of the features, talk about the difference between a splash pad and a splash pool, and try to convey what you will see on this design.
Can everybody come in a little farther away?
Maybe turn it a little more so that the audience can see some as well. There you go.
That's good. Yep. Okay. I'll try to be brief. The first plan we have here is just an existing site plan of what's there now, as I mentioned. And you have the pool, bathhouse, filter building. There's the slide just to give you an orientation. And the bleachers for spectator area, I guess it was used at one point in time. By the way, Rick's firm went out and did a survey of this area, which we needed. But this was the area of the old wading pool. When the pool was rehabbed in '93, that was eliminated, and this work that you see in here was done. So in conversations and in our opinion and with Rick's people, and everybody seems to think this is the best location, and the rec board, I think, was pretty much in agreement, was to put this new splash pool, we're going to call it, in that same area, which is, like I keep pointing to, right in here where the old wading pool was. This is what we gave the rec board. Dennis and I met with the rec board, I guess 2 weeks ago almost, and we presented a couple options to them, and they selected this. It was actually Scheme 1, I think we called it, which is a splash pool. And now the difference between a splash pad and a splash pool is a splash pad has no standing water. In other words, it's a cushioned surface and the features are there and it can be a shape like this, whatever. Whereas a splash pool has some standing water. We recommend this and prefer this because it actually is, believe it or not, a savings in the construction cost. And because you're pulling your water from this standing water, and what we found is a lot of people still like to have that water to splash in and play in instead of just running around on a cushion pad and have water spraying from the features themselves. So this is also very popular, very, very popular, doing a lot of designs with this, but that's the big difference. This pool has standing water also. Somewhat like the old wading pool, for an example. About a third of it is non-standing water, which will have features, and then the standing water area will also have features. The rec board came up, I think, with like a list of like 12 different features they would like to be considered. As Rick mentioned, this is not etched in stone now. We took some from that 12. The one that isn't consistent is the crocodile. We're going to put the crocodile in, and we understand that. So that is in. And, well, that can be worked out, as Rick mentioned, in the actual design development and preparation of the bid documents of what they would like to have in there. So this is kind of benched into the hill here. There is a pretty good slope. It was done with the idea that, I don't like to recommend cutting trees down if we don't have to, and I realize it's an old evergreen tree, but it could be done without it. Maybe that could be trimmed, however, if, you know, the borough.
We did just trim it up.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even take notice. I stopped by the pool tonight. I didn't. But anyway, that's a decision that can be made if you want that out. It can be done within it, and we just bench it in there. And this would have its own little filter room. As I mentioned earlier, there's just not feasible to dig up all this concrete and start running pipes all the way over to the present filter room, and there's really not space in there. In fact, it hasn't changed much since '93. I haven't peeked in it for 20-some years, but we'll just make this its own little separate building there, and that's going to be a lot easier to maintain and operate for the people that are doing that. And then we're eliminating the fence that's in there now and putting this seat wall in, which is also another really popular item today for, it does provide somewhat of a barrier to keep from running straight across, but it also sits on it. And this is another big issue today with pools is shade. So what we do is we put two, actually you could probably put three there, that's up to you, but we've factored in two shade umbrellas. They're the retractable, removable. You remove them for the winter, and if there's a storm coming, you can retract them. And they add a lot of, they are colorful like this. You can get all different types of color combinations, and it adds a lot of color. So between these and the water features, you're going to see a lot of color out there, depending, because there's a lot of different color options for water features, which the rec board or whoever is responsible for picking colors can do. And then, of course, as I mentioned, all the deck around with this pool to provide a hard surface around the pool. That's basically what's involved with the project.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure, absolutely.
So, first question, what age group are you trying to target with the splash pad?
Well, this is actually right now going to target about pretty much of all ages. And one of the things we found is a lot of times the tots are out here. You might want to gear the features on this non-standing water portion more for like tots. Usually what we find with tots, and I'm talking about that 0 to maybe 3 or 4 years old, they require them to become, when it's for use by all ages, they require them to be accompanied by a parent or a guardian or babysitter or something like this, that they're like supervised. You still would put a lifeguard here. You would definitely want to have a lifeguard there. One would be required, but right now it would be geared for all ages.
Okay, and then the other question I had is having gone to the pool now for a couple of years, right? Occasionally you'll have an accident in the pool, and what had happened before is you'd have to shut the whole pool down, shock it, right, which took X amount of time. And one of the encouraging things about having a splash pad is to maybe move the folks out that would potentially have this problem into the splash pad. But now that you have standing water there as well, when the same kind of accident happens, what's the process?
Well, the process would be, again, and I think this is technically by code, you really don't have to shut that pool down, per se, okay? Because if your disinfection levels and so on are what they should be, for lack of a better saying this, the two differences, number one and number two. Okay, number one, you're not gonna see that anyway, and if your filter is filtering and all that, just like the old wading pool was, this area is, which is also for tots, that'll be treated chemically right away and there won't be a problem. The other one, yes, you would wanna vacate the pool, clean that out, and then maybe super chlorinate for a little bit, and then, but you could put that back open within an hour. This standing water is gonna be turned over every 30 minutes.
Okay.
So it's whereas the pool was every 8 hours.
And it's filtered separately.
And it's totally, yeah, that's what this little building will be. It's gonna have its own filter system, chemical system.
So is
Totally
it,
independent.
is the process different because there's standing water or not standing water? Like if we didn't want to have standing water, would it be any, what are the trade-offs?
Actually, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive because you still have to have all the filter equipment, but you're gonna have to build what's called a reservoir, which would be underground, that the water from the features drains into, and then the filter is pulling from that reservoir and filtering that water, and also the pumps for the water features are pulling from that reservoir. And that reservoir would also require an automatic make-up water system, so you maintain the level in there if it's not getting back fast enough. Whereas here, you have your standing water in your pool and you eliminate the reservoir. That's the economic thing, impact, I should say, is it's gonna cost more to do that. And number two is that you don't really need a cushion surface over the standing water, and the cushion surfaces are also very expensive, very expensive. And the third reason is we just, when we present the options, people like the idea of still having standing water, so they can lay in the water, play in the water, whatever the case may be. But it is, you know, it's your call. I don't want to speak for the rec board, but they seem to like the idea.
Well, at first we were looking at just a splash pad, and then what was nice is we were down there talking, and when he started talking about this, it did seem like this was a really cool option. So that's why we start looking into it. And also economically, it did make sense. Why have all that water underground and pay more for it, whereas you could have kind of like the baby pool again? Because the depth would be no more than
1'6".
Yeah, so, you know, and it's a graduated.
Well, as a design team, we feel it's important to present all the options, whether, you know, the initial concept was a spray pad or not. And when Dennis and I met with we were just down to look at the site.
Yeah, we were just down there and you started talking and it was like
So
really,
one of the councilmen, or somebody was down.
Rob was there, I think.
The romance, the
Public Works guy.
Oh, the public work, that's right, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot, yeah, and I don't know, he's time to jump on the idea too.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to speak for
Because
anybody, but.
he had some experience with the
Yeah.
Pittsburgh splash
Pools,
pads
right.
and pools, yeah.
Right. That's where you would do more of the spray pad, is the city and the neighborhood parks, where that's all there is. So there's really no, from a maintenance standpoint and, just vandalism, use, the whole 9 yards, it's better not to have standing water in a scenario like that, like your little neighborhood parks. But even some of the communities that have those that we're dealing with still like the idea of this standing water. But it's preference.
Okay. The only other question I have, and then council can ask the rest of their questions, the schedule. So understand, we're not going to vote tonight, we'll vote at the next meeting, but we're just trying to get a consensus if this is conceptually the direction we want to go. If it is, the engineering schedule, what do we hope to get done in the fall, and what do we hope to have to complete in the spring?
Yeah, I didn't bring the schedule, but I think we're looking to finish design within a month. Was it a month or 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think the ultimate was to be able to bid this thing, I have it in my file, but I can prove it, would be able to bid this and bring it to council in August to award,
Okay.
if bids,
Fred, if we meet that schedule, what physical
Well,
activities would happen in the fall?
From that point, if we can get the contract, if we can get it awarded in August, it usually takes 3 weeks for the contractor to get the documents back. So potentially by the beginning of September, we can give a notice to proceed. So, at that point, when the pool closes, he'd be ready to come in maybe toward the end. So they might start to pour concrete pads, they might do the excavation work, they might do the site prep work. I doubt they'll place features this year. I think there's a lot of work to do with the pool structure itself.
What would be great, because spring, you know what springs are like, and winters are all of a sudden becoming more severe. They used to be able to work a lot more during the winter months than they are now. But the other thing that we're after is try to get everything done, but, as Rick just said, placement of the features, and you wouldn't put the cushion surface down until spring. But that way, you're most guaranteed of opening if we can get it on time, because.
That's what I was getting at. So you really hope that the lion's share of the construction would happen in the
Yes.
fall?
Yes,
So
exactly.
really, the spring would
There's
just
less
be,
risk.
And you know what, there's another thing we love to do, is get these structures in, let them sit over the winter months, you're gonna know how good they are, rather than building them in the spring. And now you're waiting to go through their first winter, and, I'm serious, we'd like them to sit over the winter months before you put the final surface on them.
okay.
And that way you'll know if you have, concrete cracks are inevitable, unfortunately, a lot of times, and they can be addressed and things like this. The other thing is if you would wait until spring to try to do this work, you're gonna pay a pretty construction price.
It's not our desire to wait till spring. I just wanted to make sure that we had an understanding of what we'd like to get done in the fall.
That's the urgency, to start work in late September And, you know, if we get 2 months' worth of great weather,
Yeah.
then we can knock this out.
Right.
If we get 2 weeks of great weather, then we're gonna be riding into the spring on some of this work. So it really is weather dependent, that's why sooner is better.
Okay. Other questions?
I have some questions. How does this differ from the recreation comprehensive plan that was put together, that was funded in part by grants from the state?
You know what, I can't answer that question. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
we went back to the grant agency, explained the situation. They were satisfied with this as a feature to the pool. So they've accepted it as part of the plan.
Explain what situation?
That originally we talked about overhauling the entire pool, the much larger project. And in lieu of that, doing a different phase of the plan and installing the splash pad prior to any other future work on the pool, that it would be completely independent.
Okay, so.
Because the grant wasn't approved for the splash pad, that's why.
Right. So we're changing the direction and putting 2 wading pool areas in now. I just see the redundancy and I'm wondering.
Well, this really isn't considered a wading pool. This zero depth is just something now that is very popular, and it just offers a variable depth of water for all ages. And today, most of the time, they're putting even more features in this area. Well, that's gonna be a little more expensive to do now, because you'd have to tear up floors and things like this, so that's the idea, is to come over here and build this pool and use that as your water feature type pool, to get a spray powder, spray pool.
Just from a realistic standpoint, though, there's 2 bodies of water that children in, you know, their pull-ups can be in and, you know, have
This-
accidents in. So
this-
I'm just wondering.
You could regulate that too.
This
You could
is more
possibly
of a-
push this at certain ages to the splash pad.
Right.
But that was for all ages, that was clarified a couple times. So that-
But it's your rules, it's designed for all ages, but you could put age limits on any of the pools, you know, minimum 10 years old to get into the big pool and maximum 10 years old to get into the smaller pool. Or you could have an unlimited age limit. So if you don't want redundancy, you can rule that out by making rules.
The big
If you
difference
don't
is,
want
this is more of a
pull-ups or
passive
long
area, you know, like passive and active recreation. This would become more of a passive area now with this in. And I think that's gonna really be great for the younger tots. They can come over here too, but then they can come over here and it's a little less active for some of the time. Even when we're designing projects today, that they are putting 2 pools in right away, both pools, well, actually wading pools. I don't want to call this a wading pool, but you can, it kind of functions like, somewhat like a wading pool, except for all the water features in that. The only acceptable ADA access is 0 depth for this type of pool, okay? This was way ahead of its time, and it's still, like I said, a little bit more of a passive area than what the activity that will be over here. But even when we're designing new facilities today, both pools, if they're doing a separate wading pool and calling it a wading pool, they're putting features in that, they're putting features in these, and both pools have 0 depth. That's the ultimate design today. This 0 depth access is just so popular and meets all of the new criteria for ADA accessibility and all that good stuff.
Questions, other questions? Mary?
Could you just tell everybody how, especially Mr. Hayes, after this weekend, how much it would cost to heat our pool? I think you'll be surprised.
It's cold this weekend. I just watched.
I know, that's why I'm throwing that out there, Mr. Hayes.
Well, we're doing a lot of pool heating today, believe it or not. And, I mean, that's a tough one to estimate to some extent, because we need to know, you know, the cost of well, first of all, set a fuel source, whether or not we're doing some electric, but not to belabor that, oil is the best way to go. Natural gas, excuse me. And then there's so many other factors that come into play, as what temperature you want to have and so on. But I can give you, because we're working with it all the time, an average cost on a decent summer, because many times after June, you're really, unless you're heating way much hotter than you should be, excuse me, your heater isn't really on for the months of July and August. It was probably somewhere around $3,500 to $5,000 a year.
That's not bad, is it?
I would have expected it to be higher.
I was actually really surprised.
It can be, I mean, it's really a tough one, this one, because more rain, cool like it was, last week, that will definitely drive your cost up. And also being reasonable with the temperature that you're going to maintain.
But I mean, it's something, I was just really surprised. I just really thought it would be so much more, but that is maybe something that we could think about.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a tough one to compare to other communities too, because there's so many other factors given into play. Are they losing water? Are they adding a lot of makeup water? Things. It all affects that cost. But anyway, that's a general, for a pool this size now, the size of this pool.
Okay, any other questions, any other comments about the concept?
Does someone want to speak to how we came to the decision not to execute the recreation plan as recommended by the state, and why we're going to give grant money back? $300,000 back, to be exact.
Sure.
Okay. I know I'm coming late in the game,
Oh,
so I'm just gonna go by what was the way it was explained to me. The entire project budget scope for the project was $1.2 million. We received $250,000 from the DCED, and that's a matching grant of $250,000. So in 2015, the total project was $500,000. So to do the zero depth entry, the lap lanes, or the bathhouse, there was nothing that we could cut out that would be $500,000 without doing the entire project. So the splash pad or a splash pool, whatever you call it, was the best way to utilize that $250,000. The $250,000 is being matched by $100,000 that is budgeted in 2015, $100,000 that will be budgeted in 2016, because the project won't be completed until 2016, and then $50,000 in fundraising. So that's the $500,000 project. The remainder of the grant, the DCNR grant, is $350,000. That's not under contract. We applied for a DCNR grant for $250,000 and a GEDF, which is gambling money, for the remainder. We were told that you can't use the DCNR and the GEDF as your match. So we would have to have a match of an additional $350,000 in order to do the remainder of the project. We do not have the $350,000.
We have no way of getting $350,000 to execute the plan.
If you wanted to do a bond issue but
This is old business. We discussed this and made decisions weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question directly.
I mean, there's members of the public, and there's a lot of people, this has been going on since 2010. I mean, you were actually on the committee for the pool studies project.
Right.
So it just seems like a slap in the face to the residents that put a lot of hard work, time, and effort into it, to say, oh, we're just gonna give money back, and we're not gonna try to match the funds. I mean, the state of Pennsylvania believes in Crafton, but Crafton doesn't believe in Crafton. It's, there's a disconnect there for me.
Well, I don't follow that train of thought. When we applied for the grants, we expected that the grants could match against each other. We learned that they cannot. So then we had a public discussion, several of them, around whether or not we wanted to fund the remainder. And the consensus of council was not to. Right, so that's the explanation, right, to the public. That this council did not want to float a bond, take it out of our reserve, spend the money to match that grant.
Okay.
That's been true for several meetings.
No, I understand that, and I think, it should all come to light now that we're getting ready to break ground. There was less than $5,000 a month to execute the full project. That's what we would have paid on a bond. So. That's all.
Okay? Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
So we'll look to take action at the next meeting, Rick. But I think conceptually, we like the idea, and we know it can be fine-tuned in terms of the features that get added into it. We look forward to nailing down those details. while I was sitting here, Ann shared with me the schedule. It matches what Rick is looking for. We hope to start the construction within a week after the pool closes. In order to hit that deadline, as he explained, we have to be awarding sometime in the middle of August, and we'll work to meet that schedule.
Great, thank you.
All right. Okay, we're gonna move in.